Just tell us, how did you become aware of the threats made against you?
Well, I was first informed by the FBI back in the spring of 2020, pursuant to the FBI's so-called duty to warn obligation when American citizens are threatened by foreign interest. And over the course of the rest of 2020 and much of 2021, they kept giving me more detailed warnings as information became known to them, until really just before Thanksgiving of 2021. It was serious enough that I asked if that were the case, that maybe the Secret Service should resume protection, which had stopped the day I resigned back in 2019. So I certainly learned a lot about it. I didn't myself know all the details that were in the charging documents filed in federal court and unsealed earlier this week. I learned about it when I read the charging documents.
And just tell us, what details were revealed earlier this week?
Well, very specific things that the government of Iran had done, surveilling my house, my workplace, attempting to arrange a murder for hire transaction, and a whole number of things that were filed in federal court in order to get an arrest warrant against this Revolutionary Guard official, Poursavi. This is the beginning of a criminal complaint process in the United States, not dissimilar from that in the United Kingdom, that ultimately the government would be prepared to prove, if it could get Poursavi in custody, prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. So it's a level of significant information that's really quite impressive.
And on a personal level, how did you feel reading sort of the intensity of the efforts by Poursavi to actually take you down, as it were?
Well, I read that they were prepared to pay up to $300,000 for my demise. I have to say I was embarrassed by that number. I would have thought it would have been larger, but what can I say?
And you mentioned there about the Department of Justice, being prepared to take this forward. But what are the prospects of the suspect actually being brought to justice? He's in Iran at the moment, and my understanding is there is not a deportation arrangement at the moment with the US.
Right. I don't think we're going to get him from Iran. I suspect that what's now happened is that the arrest warrant has been given to Interpol in Lyon, and that arrest warrant would be good in all Interpol members. So I think Poursavi better not travel outside of Iran in the near future.
And do you suspect that this was a lone wolf, or have you seen evidence that suggests it was actually state-sponsored?
Well, I think the charging documents themselves elaborate in great detail, and the Department of Justice has stated they don't have any doubt that this is the Revolutionary Guards. And we know of other information of other former U.S. government officials who are also subject to attempts to kidnap or assassinate them by the government of Iran. Former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, former Secretary of Defense Mark Esper. These are people who have acknowledged it publicly. There are others, I don't want to get into names, but there are others that we suspect are also being surveilled and may be subject to these threats. It's really quite unprecedented. I mean, I judge it to be effectively an act of war to try and kill Americans on American soil.